Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It is 6:07 here on this Wednesday morning, 25th day of June. We're in the final week of June already. That'll be the end of the second quarter of 2025. Coming up at 6:35, Cal Thomas will join us. 7:05, Curtis Sliwa to talk about his race for mayor that just got very, very interesting after yesterday's primary. 7:35 brings us Maryland delegate Mark Fisher, and then at 8:05 it's General Jack Keane on the NATO meetings as well as the latest out of Israel and Iran. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie. Are you going to make a run for mayor as well?
Might as well. I mean, why not? Why not?
Anything can happen. It's the American dream, especially if you've only been a citizen for 7 years and you come from a foreign
that's my
country
problem.
And you used to be a foreign language rapper or something. I don't know. Good old New York. Fascinating behind closed door hearing yesterday with the Oversight Committee as Neera Tanden, the former director of Domestic Policy Council for the Biden White House, appeared under oath via subpoena to describe exactly what happened with regard to the cover-up of Joe Biden's infirmities and the use of the Autopen. It was revealed at these hearings that Neera Tanden did, in fact, have full authorization to utilize the Autopen and was one of the coordinators of that Autopen.
It is
so
enormous. It's an enormous revelation here. It really is.
It's a big one, and yeah, absolutely. And so, was she the Autopen president? Even more so, who is she? First, she did briefly speak with reporters and answered one question before running away. The question was there an effort to disguise President Biden's condition? Here's the question and answer.
Just spoke with the House Oversight Committee, Majority and Minority Council. I answered every question, was pleased to discuss my public service.
Yes.
And it was a thorough process, and I'm glad I answered every question.
Was there an effort to disguise President Biden's condition?
Absolutely not.
Oh, she wasn't up talking then.
By the way, that's my favorite question. 100% truthful. Was there an effort to disguise Joe Biden's condition? No, you all saw what we saw. Are you kidding me? It was there, plain as the world to see. Only Jake Tapper would be stupid enough to think that he was fine. All right, so who's Neera Tanden? Let me tell you a story. It's the story of the 2000 presidential election. Perhaps you've heard of it. When Al Gore was supposed to succeed Bill Clinton, he was running against that smirky little, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, George W. Bush from Texas. Al Gore got the candidate that he wanted. They knew that they were in line for a third and fourth Clinton term. You talk about a permanent political class. The 8 years of the Clinton team were all ready for a beautiful transition to Al Gore for 8 years and then Hillary Clinton for 8 more years.
Yep.
This was the plan. But then the recount in Florida happened. Then George W. Bush won. Then 9/11 happened. And the entire Clinton team that had run things, they decided that they needed to come up with a new strategy if they were ever going to retain power and keep it. John Podesta, perhaps you've heard of him. He was the chief of staff of the Clinton presidency at the end there. He believed that the Democrats were completely outflanked during the 2000 presidential election, and most importantly during the Florida recount, by the think tanks and conservative groups and activist groups that had formed post-Reagan and all through the 90s. They believed that there was this maniacal network of rich conservatives. Remember, they used to talk about Scaife all the time, right?
Yeah,
and the Mellons and all that. Then they turned to the Kochs. Now they turn to Elon Musk. They've always got a boogeyman behind the door that is funding all of these Republican conservative groups, these evil organizations. And John Podesta decided, well, they needed to have their own version of that. So in 2003, he, along with a couple of deep-pocketed funders, one of them you may have heard of named George Soros, the other two named Herbert and Marion Sandler, They put together millions of dollars in grants from Soros's Open Society Institute, and they created a thing called the Democracy Alliance. This was a network of very well-funded progressive donors, left-wing Democrat donors, people who had gotten rich through Bill Clinton and wanted to keep the good times rolling. And they needed to create organizations. And suddenly, the next thing you know, up pops a thing called the Center for American Progress. About a year later, they gave free office space to another organization that they called Media Matters for America. Perhaps you've heard of them. All funded by the same network from the same John Podesta, George Soros, Sandler network of money that they started funding on their own because they started raising a ton of money because they started fighting against Bush, fighting against Fox News, fighting against Rush Limbaugh. Center for American Progress and Media Matters for America became behemoths in this town. And all of those people who worked for the Clintons ended up working for these two organizations, and they made a ton of money, and they got very politically active, and they were set up to be the infrastructure for the next president who would succeed George Bush. They assumed it would be Hillary Clinton. In comes Barack Obama, and they're like, hey, we can work with that too. And suddenly the handshake begins. Obama becomes president, and all of these organizations start the revolving door. They worked for Clinton, then they worked for Center for American Progress, then they worked for Obama. Remember, wasn't John Podesta Barack Obama's chief of staff for a while there?
Yep.
And then what did John Podesta do after the Obama presidency? Or toward the end, he became the chairman of the Hillary Clinton campaign. The revolving door continues. John Podesta, with George Soros money, all of these left-wing nonprofit organizations, the biggest, most behemoth one of them all, Center for American Progress. Now, the question was, who's Neera Tanden? Well, Neera Tanden, before she worked as the head of the Domestic Policy Council in the Biden administration and then had use of the Autopen to be able to sign executive orders and even legislation and pardons, well, before she had that job in the Biden White House, she was the head of Center for American Progress. She succeeded John Podesta. She was John Podesta's hand-picked successor at Center for American Progress. And when Biden dropped out of the race and Kamala Harris lost the presidency, on the day of Donald Trump's inauguration, where did Neera Tanden go? Well, she left the White House and walked a few blocks down the street and resumed her role as the head of the Center for American Progress. That's the woman who was testifying yesterday and confirmed that she had control of the Autopen in the Biden White House. Thank you. My TED Talk has completed.
I love a Larry history lesson. I just want to add one thing.
Please.
One of the most damaging things that this sort of network, you talk about Podesta and this whole the origins of this. One of the most damaging things that they did was they changed where the money. We saw this with Doge and USAID giving out all these and you know, you've seen all these grants going out to these NGOs. It used to be that, you know, Democrats participated in this too, where, you know, federal grants went to governors, went to mayors, went to locals to fix local issues, right?
This is a very important point.
Yes. This sort of switched where instead of going to local political leaders and local elected officials,
states and counties and cities,
right, to the people who knew what was needed on the local level, right? No, it went to these NGOs. And then they would then further pass it down to mayors who would carry their political goals instead of what was needed on the local level. This is a major problem that Elon Musk and Doge just are starting to reveal. The power of these left-wing NGOs. And we see it on the local level where these NGOs then fund candidates that they want in these positions. And then, well, we see what's happening on the local level.
It's been referred to as the NGO cartel that Neera Tanden is in the center of, where, yes, in that role at the Biden White House, she was able to be the gatekeeper for billions and billions and billions of dollars that did not flow to municipalities, as you said. they flowed all that money flowed to these nonprofit political action groups, political activist groups with very benign and wonderful names, but they end up doing really nasty stuff. And Neera Tanden was the gatekeeper for all of that money, and she's the one who testified yesterday. Where it will go from there, we're not sure, but now at least you have the information and you know who she is. Also, by the way, one other thing about Neera Tanden you need to know, she's a regular guest and analyst on CNN.
There you go.
Yeah, that's right. The media is always involved. It's 6:16.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
All right. President Trump is engaged right now in multiple meetings with NATO. And he tweeted this morning, the day begins in the beautiful Netherlands. The king and queen are beautiful and spectacular people. Our breakfast meeting was great. Now it's off to the very important NATO meetings. The USA will be very well represented. By the way, the media is well represented as our gal, my colleague Katie Pavlich, over at Town Hall, is part of the press pool. Kind of fun to see Katie flying on Air Force One there, hanging out with POTUS. So maybe we can touch base with Katie tomorrow on the program.
Yeah, she posted a picture of herself on the tarmac outside Air Force One. Very cool. Very cool.
Very, very cool. Nothing hugely noteworthy coming out here. What they're trying to do is increase, is one thing to actually get these European nations to meet their basic NATO obligations. What Trump is hoping to achieve is to get them actually to increase their NATO obligations to 5% of their GDP. Everybody talks about these great social programs in France and the fact that people get 6 weeks vacation and paid maternity and paternity leave and free health care and free daycare. And yeah, it's funny. Those countries don't have to pay for a military. Because we pay for their military.
Exactly. Yes, and their security.
The concept behind NATO, if you go back and actually read the origin story of NATO, the idea was not that America would be the protector of Europe and that we would fund their military. No, that's what it became. But the idea of NATO was every country has their own military that fights under their flag. And if any one of them gets attacked, they're all going to have each other's back. And they'll band together and they'll work together to fight the common enemy.
And I think America
which at the time was the Soviet Union.
I think the American public was willing to take a larger share. Look, we're a very powerful country. We are very wealthy. I think
it was the Cold War. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I think America was willing to take a larger share. Fine. But, so many of these governments have these jokes of a military. I mean, the changing of the guard is all we can expect from these militaries. They don't exercise. They don't practice. Yeah. They don't contribute to NATO, not in any meaningful way. And it does breed resentment on the part of the American public.
Of course it does. Well, especially because they get on the world stage and lecture us about what we're supposed to do.
Right.
That's where it breeds resentment. And by the way, who the worst offender is on both of those counts about not contributing their budget for their military and then lecturing us?
France.
Who?
France.
No, you'll be surprised. Close, very close to France, but worse. Canada.
Absolutely.
Canada.
Blame Canada for everything.
Canada's part of NATO, and they are actually on the lowest end of contributing the correct percentage of their GDP to their military as per NATO guidelines. But boy, they lecture us. Anyway, I've gone a little far afield. We'll see what Trump can accomplish in NATO. Two noteworthy moments just this morning. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State traveling with the president, spoke out about these reports that the military strike was not effective against the nuclear capabilities. Here's what Marco Rubio had to say.
No, first of all the stuff about the intelligence, this is what a leaker is telling you the intelligence says. That's the game these people play. They read it, and then they go out and characterize it the way they want it characterized, and they're leakers. This is the game they play. So that's number one. Number two, here's a fact. The conversion facility, which you can't do a nuclear weapon without a conversion facility, we can't even find where it is, where it used to be on the map. You can't even find where it used to be because the whole thing is just blackened out. It's gone.
It's wiped out.
It's wiped out. Then we dropped 12 of the strongest bombs on the planet right down the hole in two places. Everything underneath that mountain is in bad shape. And I refer you to the statement of the IAEA, Mr. Grossi. You know what he said? He said there was Iran, the way it looked the day before the attack, and what their nuclear program looks like now. Two very different things. They are way behind where they were just 7 days ago. Now, anything in the world can be rebuilt. But now we know where it is, and if they try to rebuild it, we'll have options there as well. But all this leaker stuff, these leakers are professional, stabbers. That's what they are. They go out and they read this stuff, and then they tell you what it says against the law, but they characterize it for you in a way that's absolutely false. There's no...
Good for Secretary of State Rubio.
Gosh,
he really is getting
great.
So good at this, and that's absolutely right. 100% is right. There's one other thing that just defies logic. If Iran wasn't really damaged by these strikes, then why in the hell did they agree to a ceasefire? Why are they at the table? Why are they talking nice about some kind of lasting peace all of a sudden? There's no. It defies logic. It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. Yeah.
Finally, one other noteworthy item out of the NATO meetings: President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine is there, and Julie, he's wearing a suit.
Ugh.
He's not in his pretend military fatigues. He's in a suit. Did you see it?
He's finally growing up. We're so proud.
But it's yes and no. I mean, it's all black. It's like black suit, black shirt, black tie. He looks like a little mafia guy from an Eastern European country. Oh, wait a second.
He does.
All right, well, at least he's in character. I do like it when the clothes make the man. It's 6:24.
Yes, there you go. Coming up, it is Cal time. So much to talk to Cal about the Iran situation, this Autopen revelation. We'll have it all with Cal. Keep it here. It's 6:30.
WMAL-FM Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 6:37. It's O'Connor and Company here on this busy Wednesday morning. Thanks for tuning in here. Thanks for letting us be a part of your routine. Just getting audio. Apparently, Donald Trump yesterday on Air Force One, speaking with reporters, said that Vladimir Putin called him, said, "Hey, do you need some help with Iran?" And Trump said, "I don't need any help with Iran. I need help with you." We'll try to get that audio for you coming up in a bit. Also at 7:05, Curtis Sliwa, he sees a lane here in the chaos that is the New York City mayoral race, and he might be right. He'll make his case. Then at 7:35, Maryland delegate Mark Fisher. While we're talking about socialists, let's talk about Annapolis, Maryland, and Governor Westmore. And then at 8:05, we'll speak with retired four-star General Jack Keane. We'll get his opinion on this leaked, anonymous, unverified intel analysis of the bombing in Iran. That's all coming up. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Jules.
Good morning.
And back from his odyssey, traveling every corner of Asia, is the one and only Cal Thomas. Cal, welcome back. We missed you.
Well, thank you very much. Not only the Odyssey, but the Iliad, too, if you ever read that in college.
Wow. Did you take Homer with you?
No, but I am repacking now to go to the Bezos Sanchez wedding. And, Julie, why don't you come along as my date?
I would love it.
Hey. I promise you, if you brought me as a date, you'd be much more popular with that crowd.
Well, certainly in New York City, I would be.
What do you think of New York? I mean, how do you assess it? My gut instinct here is less adoration of this neophyte communist who would be a disaster for the city, as much as voters just saying, stop handing us a pile of feces and tell us that it's good. We don't like Andrew Cuomo, and we're done with the Cuomos.
Well, there are other alternatives on the ballot. They had, 9 or 10 or maybe more people running. This guy is really dangerous, and it's not just about politics. He wants to make the buses free in New York. There's nothing free. Somebody has to pay for it. That'll be the taxpayers will pay for it. A lot of people who don't ride buses. Then he wants to take over the grocery stores of New York City. We know how that worked out. It was called the Soviet Union. You had long bread lines. People couldn't get stuff. The shelves were practically empty. I mean, this is crazy. And then he's a open anti-Semite. He constantly berates Israel and the Jewish people, pro-Palestinian. I mean, I'd like to know how many Jewish voters in New York voted for this guy. If they did, they were voting against their own interests. I mean, this is dangerous stuff. If Democrats think this is their future, they're really in worse shape than many of us already thought they were.
So Cuomo is not off the ballot. He can still run in the general, and there's some calls for all the Democrats that are still on. It's like Europe with these coalition governments and these people running from the sunny side up party. It's just crazy. So there is some calls for them to all drop out and coalesce against Adams or Cuomo. Do you think the Democrats in New York
what about
will
Eric
do that?
Adams, the actual incumbent mayor?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the hilarity of it.
Yeah, he's looking better all the time now, I think. I mean, he's even cozying up to President Trump. I mean, this guy, Mondani, took his victory speech as an opportunity to label the president as a fascist and say, I'm his worst nightmare.
He'll arrest Netanyahu if he comes he comes to New York.
I mean, that's crazy stuff. That's crazy AOC, Bernie Sanders stuff. This doesn't resonate well with voters. I mean, we've got serious issues in this country. This is just disgusting language. And I think there's a good possibility that other Democrats will unite, as you say, Julie, and I think that would be a good thing for New York City. I mean, it's already a bad place to visit. Used to be fun city, now it's depressive city.
I got to tell you, I've lived in major cities my whole life. When there's a president in the White House that I don't like, I don't think to myself as a voter, that's it. I'm angry at Clinton. I'm angry at Obama. So I'm going to vote for this guy for mayor. I don't connect those dots. Why are suddenly, this guy's running against Trump and not actually serving the people of New York? That said, Cal, let me shift. You mentioned the Bezos wedding here. This is going to be quite the extravaganza in Venice, but apparently the environmentalists are not too pleased about it.
No, Greenpeace is resurrected. I mean, we forgot about those. I didn't even know they were still around. I thought they went out of business. Yeah, they're all upset now, but Bezos is making major charitable contributions there. The Greenpeace has rolled out a sign, you can't rent a city for a wedding. I mean, this is nuts. This is Celebrity City, of course. I really don't have an invitation, Julie. I'm sorry. I think mine got lost in the mail. But, I'll be watching. And this is not a May-December wedding. This is a decade wedding. I mean, this is weird. But that's
no
the big
comments.
thing now. You got Belichick out there with the cheerleader and all this stuff. I'm glad my wife and I are the same age. At least we know who Bobby Sherman was.
And listen, Cal, there's not enough time to get my Botox going for that wedding, so I think it's good we're skipping it.
Yeah, probably so.
Bobby
I'm
Sherman,
not sure
rest in peace.
Yes, great singer. Great hair, too. He had great hair, along with all the other Bobbies.
He did have that mop top, like a Davy Jones look.
Yeah. How many Bobbies can you name from that era? There was Bobby Darin, Bobby Rydell, there was Bobby V, and then Bobby Sherman. Those are the four top Bobbies. Not to mention the London police.
Don't cross Cal Thomas. He's rested and ready to go. He had that Bobby thing in his back pocket all through Asia. He's like, where can I use this? I know. I'll save it for Larry and Julie. Thanks, Cal. Enjoy the Bezos wedding.
Julie's favorite song, Julie, do you love me?
We love you, Cal.
Bye,
thanks. Cal. I just wanted to hear him drop the mic.
I know, I love it.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Goodness gracious. Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, really wants Abigail Spanberger to be the new governor of Virginia. And so he's down there stumping in Virginia. Down there. I mean, from the D.C. and Maryland perspective, it's down there. If you're in Virginia right now, I guess down there means nothing to you. Anyway, the point is,
down there sounds better than adjacent from there. Yeah.
Yes. Wes Moore is stumping for Abigail Spanberger. And do we actually have the audio of this, or should I just quote it? I'll quote it. Apparently, he gets up to the podium at this rally for Abigail Spanberger and said, "It's good to be here in Southern Maryland."
What?
He's referring to the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Oh, dear.
While campaigning for a woman who wants to be governor as Southern Maryland.
Well done.
And, of course, and the crowd boos him, by the way. Now, he claims he was joking, but I don't know. See, that's actually a bit of a tell, isn't it? Hey, Virginia, if you wanted the kind of politics and spending and disaster that is Maryland, you'd move to Maryland, I would think. Why would you import those policies? Abigail Spanberger will bring the best of Maryland and California politics to Virginia. And by the best, I mean the worst.
Also, that's not funny. It's not a joke.
It's not. There's nothing funny about it.
There's nothing funny about that. You're like, nobody wants – we we live in Virginia because we like, we did. Hopefully, if she is defeated, we will continue to like Virginia. But, yeah.
Yeah, this is the person that Abigail Spanberger chose to stump for her, Westmore. That said, Westmore has some problems of his own. As I mentioned later in the program, we've got Delegate Mark Fisher joining us at 7:35 to expand on this, but I'll just give you the quick thumbnail. He gets into office. He immediately, and he inherits a surplus from Larry Hogan.
Right.
He immediately goes on a hiring spree, hires 5,000 new state employees, basically, handouts and givebacks to all of the people who helped him out. And it's typical, government legalized corruption. He gets into office and then he just starts handing out jobs.
Handing out the favors.
5,000 new state jobs. Then the budget is busted. This last time around, they had to raise taxes, raise fees across the board. So now he's announced a hiring freeze starting on July 1st and voluntary buyouts for state employees. So 3 years ago, when he becomes governor, he's got to hire 5,000 new employees. Really important. He busts the budget, wastes our surplus, raises taxes, and now he says, hey, we've got voluntary buyouts for any state employees who wants to leave. Maybe you shouldn't have hired all those people in the first place,
and will
Wes.
they learn? No, they will not learn.
And Virginia, you've got a choice ahead of you. Maryland is stuck, but you can actually still make a choice. It's 6:51.